The clatter of dishes and the harsh roar of the dishwasher drowned out everything else in the quiet little restaurant, tucked away on a rainy street in Chicago. But one pair of eyes in a sleek black suit didn't just see the noise. It saw exhaustion etched into the lines of a young woman's face. Harper Johnson, the restaurant's dishwasher, moved with a relentless rhythm, scrubbing and rinsing, drying and stacking, while the neon light from the diner's sign flickered across her tired features. She looked like she had been at it for hours, and in truth she had. But what the Undercover CEO standing in the shadows didn't yet know was how deep the story went, how heavy the weight she carried really was. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. This story will show you why sometimes the smallest acts can change someone's life forever. Ethan Carter had spent the last 20 years building one of the most successful restaurant chains in the country, but the higher he climbed, the more disconnected he felt from the people who worked in the very kitchens he owned. Tired of the glossy corporate reports and meaningless numbers, he decided to go undercover, blending into his own business as a lowly worker, to see the world from the eyes of those who actually made it all possible. He traded his tailored suits for a stained apron and a cap pulled low over his brow. It was on a quiet Wednesday evening that he noticed Harper for the first time. She was 19, with sun-streaked brown hair pulled into a messy bun, and eyes that spoke of too many sleepless nights. Her hands were raw from endless scrubbing, and there were dark circles under her eyes that no makeup could hide. Harper was working double shifts, first in the small diner down the street, and then here, for barely more than minimum wage, because rent and bills didn't wait for her exhaustion. She carried a resilience that Ethan recognized. Immediately, an inner strength forged in hardship, but also a quiet sadness that something in her life had broken her. As he watched her, he saw more than just fatigue. He saw the tiny details that told a story. The worn-out sneakers, the faded jacket she pulled tighter around her shoulders every time a cold draft swept in, and the tiny cross necklace that glinted faintly under the harsh kitchen light. He noticed how she would pause for a moment to straighten a crooked chair or tidy a corner before returning to her relentless pace. Something about her unwavering dedication struck a chord in him, something that numbers and profit margins could never explain. Harper wasn't just tired, she was invisible. Her managers rarely noticed if she took a breath, let alone a break. The other staff barely spoke to her, too busy with their own struggles. Yet, she worked on, silently carrying not only plates but also a burden far heavier than a pile of dishes. Ethan had expected to find complaints, inefficiency, maybe even laziness among the staff. Instead, he found Harper, and what he discovered next shattered him. By accident, he glimpsed her small notebook tucked in the corner of the break room, pages filled with meticulous notes about her life. She was caring for her younger brother, who had been diagnosed with a chronic illness. Their mother had passed away when Harper was just 16, leaving her to navigate a world she wasn't prepared for. Every note, every calculation, every tiny goal she set for herself reflected a life lived under pressure, a life where her own needs were constantly postponed. And yet, despite the struggle, Harper had hope, tiny fragile hope that she carried like a torch in the darkness. Ethan's heart ached as he watched her return to the sink, her movements mechanical but precise. The other workers had long since gone home, leaving her alone with the clanging of metal and the hum of fluorescent lights. No one was there to see her dedication, to acknowledge her sacrifice, or to lift the weight from her shoulders. For a man like Ethan, used to seeing success as glossy headlines and big checks, this was a revelation. Real success, he realized, had nothing to do with money. It had everything to do with the strength of the human spirit, the unseen acts of perseverance, and the courage to keep moving forward when life was relentless. Over the next few days, Ethan quietly observed Harper. He followed her through her shifts, watching her smile at a regular customer who left a generous tip, seeing her offer a sandwich to a homeless man waiting outside, and noticing the tiny ways she found joy in life's smallest moments. And then, one evening, as a storm raged outside, he saw her collapse for a moment on the back steps, leaning against the cold brick wall trying to catch her breath. Her exhaustion was tangible, a physical weight that pressed down on him as he silently approached. That night he made a decision. Ethan couldn't stand by and simply observe anymore. He pulled Harper aside and revealed himself, not as the boss who signed the checks and attended the board meetings, but as someone who had finally seen her story, who had witnessed her struggle, and who refused to ignore it. He offered her a new position with full pay, benefits, and support for her brother's medical needs. But more than that, he offered her something money could never buy: recognition, dignity, and the reassurance that she didn't have to carry the weight alone anymore. Harper's eyes filled with tears, a mixture of disbelief and relief washing over her. She had been invisible for so long, and now, suddenly, someone had seen her. Ethan watched as the burden she had carried alone for years began to lift, and for the first time in a long while, Harper smiled. Not just a polite smile, but one that lit up her entire face, a smile that spoke of hope, healing, and a future that was finally within reach. The story of Harper's perseverance and Ethan's awakening spread quietly among the staff. Her courage, resilience, and unwavering kindness inspired everyone, reminding them that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from power or position, but from compassion and understanding. Ethan realized that seeing the world from Harper's eyes had changed him forever, reshaping not just his approach to business, but to life itself. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let Harper's courage remind us all that no act of perseverance goes unnoticed, and that every life matters, sometimes in ways we may never fully understand. Before you go, take a moment to comment and tell us what small act of kindness made a difference in your life or someone else's. It's stories like these that remind us that empathy and compassion can change the world, one person at a time. Harper Johnson went from being an invisible dishwasher to a symbol of hope in her community, and Ethan Carter learned the profound lesson that the human spirit is the true measure of success. Sometimes seeing the world through someone else's eyes is all it takes to change lives, to transform hearts, and to remind us all that kindness is never wasted.